Hi, today we're here in Norman to have another installation of our Trees in Norman instructional videos. Today I'm going to talk about pruning young trees to prevent problems in the future. Here behind us we have an example of an oak that has a strong central leader. Over here we have an example of a silver maple that has been allowed to have multiple leaders, which will create a problem in the future. As those leaders grow in diameter, they're going to split in some sort of a storm or some sort of weather event. When a tree's very young is the time to try to shape its shape of how it's going to be when it ages, so that it won't have two central leaders that are competing. There are two shapes of trees. There's trees with strong central leaders, and then there's trees that kind of have a leader for a while and then they spread out, kind of like an elm. The strong central leader tree is called an X-current tree, and the one that is more globe-shaped or oval-shaped would be a D-current tree. On this oak, I lived on this street many years ago, so I'm aware of the terrible ice storms all of these oaks had, but this one, it's one of the reasons it's got such a central leader. It's not necessarily its nature, it's also growing in a pretty densely planted residential area, so trees also look for light, and that'll help encourage a good leader. So next we'll move on to showing you how to prune a young tree to avoid having multiple leaders. This is a pretty new planted tree. These are the kind of trees I want to target today in our talk. This tree is a Shimmered Oak, and it has a very strong central leader at this point. A straight trunk that's going all the way up, and the branches are scaffolding off of it nicely until you get up here and you have a double leader, and both of these leaders are competing to see who's boss. If you just let that go, then that is the point at which the tree will start to, spread and have a crown, a big crown. So you want to control the time that happens as much as you can. What I mean by that is you got to have a ladder tall enough. So whenever you do see a double leader in a newly planted tree, pick one to be in charge and cut the other one out. One of the things that may not be really apparent to you is when people are growing trees, whether it's in a container farm or a true B&B tree farm where trees are field grown in the soil, they have to imagine their product being at the point of sale, and they're going to grow those trees and prune those trees on the farm so that it meets the buyer's expectations, so they can market these trees at the nursery and get them sold. And there's a magic height at which tree farms and nurseries prune their trees up to, and then they're ready to ship, and because they think that looks most pleasing to the eye at the nursery, at the market, wherever you buy your tree. The branches that are down low on a tree, if you're 6'5", let's say, you're going to want to prune this thing up a little higher than 6'5" eventually. So every branch below that you don't really care about. If one of them gets broken or badly cut, who cares? That branch is coming off eventually. Another thing is, when do you prune the lower branches? Prune them when they get about as big around as your finger is what I say. So on this tree, I would imagine that the first branch that we're going to leave is probably these in here, maybe even higher. I'm not going to prune any of these though, because I like to leave everything on just as long as possible. A real goal today is to get this tree set for the future by making sure it has one central leader that's in charge, so the tree doesn't get big and split later on. So we're up here in the top of the tree. We're going to need to pick one of these leaders to be the boss. I don't know which one I want yet, but either one would be fine. Even though one of them sticking out kind of to the side, it doesn't matter. The tree will correct itself. What I did want to take this opportunity to show you is the control center, the brain for most trees, is located in the very terminal bud. It's called the apical meristem, or the terminal bud or terminal leader. There's various terms. It is a control center for the entire tree. Hormones in it is called auxin, and they suppress all the side growth. A tree wants to just keep growing up and up and up, and then it'll slow down, and that will release its dominance, and it'll allow the side branches to grow. As you can see, this top of this tree has already had almost 2 feet of new growth this year, and you're just now starting to get 2 or 3 inches of side growth. So you can see a good example there of how the auxins are in charge of the tree. So we don't want 2 leaders, we want 1. So we're gonna pick one, and I think I'm gonna pick this one to remove. Sometimes you can pick the taller one, but I'm just gonna pick this one. I'm gonna cut it out. Now you have 1 central leader. That'll make the tree last a lot longer. Incidentally, there's a little trick I wanted to show you all. And let's say that this thing got topped in a bad windstorm. Well, we're gonna actually do it. See what happens. Okay? This is what I want to be my new leader. So when you do this, you leave a little stop, and then you fold this up to it, and you tape it with Scotch freezer tape. I couldn't find any today, so I just got some medical tape, but this is how, on a nursery, when they have trees that are just whips with no branches and they want branches, what they'll do is they'll come in and top the tree so that hormone's no longer controlling side growth. And if you top it, you're removing the brain of the tree, the side will grow, it'll grow some branches. So now you'll have a whip in a nursery that has side branches. So I just tape that up like that. And that'll take over as a new leader. That's a little trick you can do at your house if you need to.